Hello again, everyone. My name is Jessica, and I'm here with another episode of Resources of the Medway Valley with the Museum of Ontario Archaeology. Now, as the weather starts to warm up, you're probably going to start to see the return of the monarch butterfly, as well as the growth of milkweed throughout your area, perhaps in your own backyards. So today I thought it would be a really good time to talk about monarch butterflies and also talk about their leafy counterpart that they depend so heavily on in order to continue to survive and thrive as a species. And that, of course, as I said, is milkweed. So to begin, we're going to talk a little bit about the monarch butterfly. Now, I think everybody knows that there's three stages, of how you make a butterfly. There's the eggs, there's the caterpillar, there's the chrysalis, and then you have the final butterfly. So I'm going to pop three pictures up next to each other showing what the caterpillars look like, what the chrysalis looks like, and what the butterfly looks like. Alright, so hopefully you got a good look at those. If not, feel free to look them up. I'm sure you've seen what a monarch butterfly looks like, at least. Maybe not the caterpillar, but definitely the butterfly. They get around. Now, just to emphasize, they are orange, they're pretty recognizable, and they have those black stripes with the white spots on their wings. They're fairly large for a butterfly in our area. I tend to see a lot of smaller ones. These guys, their wingspan are about 93 to 105 millimeters. So not big, but pretty standard medium-sized butterfly. Now, as you saw with the caterpillars are black, white, and they have a yellowish, greenish stripe pattern all along their bodies. So they're also pretty recognizable. They can only be found on milkweed plants, though. They're not really going to wander around to any other plants. They have a very strict diet of only milkweed. And then the chrysalis is fairly plain. It's a plain green. It's actually more of a jade color. That's the specific shade if you're into that. And it has golden spots on the edge of the chrysalis. Now, where can we find these different stages of the monarch butterfly? So the caterpillars, they are, as I said, confined to meadows where there are milkweed. And we're going to talk about exactly why that is in a second. Give me one moment. And the adult butterflies can pretty much be found anywhere. They're not confined to one area. Of course, they can fly around. And they drink the nectar out of pretty much any plant. Maybe they have a favorite. I haven't been able to ask them yet. But they do, I'm sure, have preferences if you have some more fragrant flowers in your yards. Now in Canada, they're pretty much found on the southern part of the entire country. They don't really get too far north before it gets too cold for them. So they tend to hang towards the southern part of the country. Now the interesting thing with monarchs is instead of laying their eggs and, them surviving the winter, they actually migrate in groups of thousands of butterflies. And they can actually be seen on the north shore of Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. So if you look up in the trees, if you get there when there's a big migration, you'll see thousands of these red-winged or orange-winged butterflies just hanging off of the trees. I've never seen it, but I'm sure it's a sight to see. Again, you can definitely look up pictures of that. Now, where are they going? They're actually flying all the way down south into Mexico, where they're going to spend the winter, where it's nice and warm. They're going to be able to survive, and they're going to be able to continue to have more caterpillars and have more babies to continue the cycle. Now, is a threat to monarch butterflies. They're not quite endangered. There's still plenty of them. We see them every year. But they are threatened. They suffer a lot of issues from habitat loss, especially in Mexico where there's a lot of deforestation going on. There's deforestation, of their habitats pretty much across the country, north to south, but mainly in Mexico where they're going to be spending their winters where it's warm enough. And also the use of pesticides and herbicides also affect their range. Now that gets into kind of where the milkweed is. Now you might not be aware that, a pesticide might be affecting a butterfly, but herbicides, especially with monarchs, definitely will. Now the whole thing with milkweed is the word weed is in their name. So to us, it doesn't sound good. We want that out of our garden. But really it's quite a pretty plant. I'm going to flash a picture of what one looks like. So, as you see, that milkweed is pretty tall. Their height can actually range anywhere from 20 to 180 centimeters. For pretty much the entire species, most of them have really thick, wide, oval leaves. And the name milkweed actually comes from, if you cut a stem part open, you'll actually see like a weird sticky milky substance come out. So it's not quite clear, it's just kind of looks a little like milk, like white. So that's where the name comes from. The flowers are really pretty, as you saw in that picture. They range in many different colors. Some species of milkweed, because there's many different species, there's actually 150 total. Some species will have orange flowers, some will be purple, pink, whites. They all range in colors. It's amazing for a plant that's considered a weed. And they also produce seed pods. Now, the pods you might have seen before. They're kind of, I guess, ovally pointed. They're pretty large, and if you cut one of those open, you're going to find the seeds, which are little brown ovals, and then all of this fluff, and all of the seeds have fluff connected to them, and that way they're able to disperse or move to a different area using the wind. And it's almost exactly like a dandelion. If you blow in a dandelion puffball, you're dispersing the seeds to different areas. So where can we find milkweed? Pretty much everywhere. As I said, there's 150 different types of species of milkweed, and there's 14 species found throughout Canada. Now in Ontario, the most common species of milkweed are the common milkweed, which is probably one of the most recognizable, has big, thick, broad leaves. Then there's butterfly weed, which I believe tends to be a little bit smaller, and that's the one that has orangish flowers. And then there's swamp milkweed, where the leaves are actually a little bit thinner than the common milkweed. Now, the connection. How do monarch butterflies rely on this plant that we consider a weed, and we don't really want it in our yards? Well, milkweed is actually poisonous. If we were to eat it, we might have stomach aches, and it might not really be good for us. We might actually die if we ate too much of it. And that's pretty much the same. Deer really don't eat it. There's really no predator that will go after specifically milkweed, except for monarch caterpillars. Now, when the caterpillars consume only milkweed, they are actually able to transfer that poison from the plant through their chrysalis phase and then into their adulthood. So they're actually distasteful to predators as butterflies. So birds really won't go after them. They just don't mind the toxicity, and so therefore they're able to be poisonous to predators that would otherwise eat them. So butterflies will actually seek out milkweed to lay their eggs on it, since that is the only food that the caterpillars can eat. The caterpillars, though, when they are ready to pupate, they will go to a different plant. Not sure why. Maybe they just want to move house. Maybe they just don't want to be around something that's quite so delicious to a bunch of other caterpillars. So once the caterpillars turn into a butterfly and they're poisonous, they can then continue to feed on the nectar that the milkweed flowers create, and so that's helping the milkweed pollinate. So it's quite a beneficial relationship between the two species, even though they're totally different. One is a plant and the other is an animal. So in the long run, milkweed really isn't that bad. Keep it around. It's pretty. You can control it. You can pull it out if it gets too far into like your lawn or anything like that. But it's nice to have around. And you're also doing a lot of really good things with the butterflies. All right, with all that being said, I'm going to head inside. We're going to do a quick craft, and maybe there might even be a little story/show involved, so you might want to stick around for that. Otherwise, I'll see you guys inside.
Alright, so for our craft today, I thought it would be really fun for us to be able to put on a little shadow puppet show to tell the story of how from an egg all the way to a butterfly, our little caterpillars use milkweed leaves to eventually turn into a chrysalis and then fly off as a butterfly. So all you really need to put on your show is going to be a light source. If you have a book light, for example, a little clip-on book light, or if you have a nice desk lamp that you can use that'll just light up a part of a blank wall in your homes, then you will definitely be able to tell this little story in your own way. Now, all you're really going to need to make this little guy is going to be a piece of black construction paper, some popsicle sticks, and you're also going to need some glue. Whether, again, as I always say, you can use your liquid glue or you can use glue sticks or hot glue if you have some help with that. But whatever you have on hand, that'll do the job. Anything that'll make it stick to the popsicle sticks. Now, for this, I figured I'd give you guys some liberty in drawing all of your own little critters here, because we want to make sure that it's our own story, right? So, all you really need for the egg is a circle, and then for your first caterpillar, when he first hatches, he's going to be a little smaller. You're going to make one a little bit bigger after he's eaten a lot of food. The chrysalis is probably going to be the trickiest thing. I don't know if you guys can see that, if I can get the glare right on it. It's really just a stick, and then to draw the chrysalis itself, it's kind of like an ovally shape, kind of teardroppy, a little pointy at the end, a little more narrow there too. So I think you guys can figure it out, and if not, ask for help. And then we're also going to need our food source, which is our milkweed leaf, and I even drew some bite marks in it, so it looks like our caterpillar's been eating away at it. And then, for the grand finale, a big butterfly. And you can make the butterfly look as different as you want it from mine. I just drew a really simple butterfly, you know, with the middle body, some antenna, and then the wings that look like a forwards and backwards bee. If you like the ones that have really long fancy tails, you can do whatever you like. Butterflies pretty much go through the same exact transformation when they go from an egg all the way to a butterfly. Alright, that being said, really the only other materials you're going to need are your scissors, if you have a safety pair, or again, if you need help with a sharper pair from parents or whoever you are with, feel free to ask for help. And then also a pencil, because we want to make sure we're able to see that line on the black paper, and pencils will do it. Or a white colored pencil if you have that. Now, just to let you guys know, if you have white construction paper, because you need something a little bit stiffer than regular printer paper, and you want to just make colored puppets and use that instead of using shadow puppets and relying on a light source, you just want to put a show on whenever you want, you can totally do that. There are no rules. I just only happen to have some black construction paper. Alright, so I'm working on my butterfly here. I am going to meet you guys at the other side once I have all of these guys cut out, and we will put together our little puppets. Alright, and just like that, we have a whole bunch of little cut out characters that will make up our story. Now, to put them on our popsicle sticks, all we have to do is take our glue. Ooh, it's coming out already. Squirt a little bit onto our popsicle sticks. And pop them onto the backs, just like that. And then just press it down a little bit and give them a second to dry if you want to put something a bit heavier on it. Then that will help speed up the process. See, the more of the shape you can let out, the better it'll probably be, because then you'll be able to tell, oh, that's a leaf. And more importantly, your audience will be able to tell, oh, that's a leaf, or oh, that might be an egg. This part is pretty quick and easy. Running out of glue. Oh no. For the chrysalis, you might put it on the little stick part just so you can have the main chrysalis bit there. And look at that, it even wiggles a little bit, just like when a butterfly emerges, which will be a really neat active part in our little play we're going to put on. Alright, and our last two. Do you want to pick probably a... I'm going to try to hide the popsicle stick as much as you can. You don't want the top poking up and making your caterpillar look like he has a camel hump, right? Alright. So I'm going to let those guys dry, but to show you how your play might look and how it might sound, and you can make it look like however you want to. Once upon a time, a monarch butterfly was flying through a big field of milkweed. Milkweed is her favorite flower, and she especially wants the milkweed so that she can lay an egg and make sure that her baby has something to eat. So she finds a leaf and she lays her egg. Now that egg sat atop that leaf of milkweed for a bit until finally it decided to wiggle and jiggle, and out popped a baby caterpillar. Now that caterpillar was awfully hungry when he came out of his egg, and so he began to eat that milkweed leaf, and he ate and he ate and he ate until finally he became so big and so full and so sleepy that he decided to crawl away from the milkweed plant and find somewhere where he could take a rest. Now that caterpillar climbed up a big stalk and finally decided to start building a chrysalis. And after working for several hours, he finally got to take a rest. Finally, that chrysalis began to wiggle and jiggle until finally a whole new butterfly emerged from it. Now that caterpillar had just turned from that tiny little caterpillar that had been eating that milkweed leaf into another butterfly. And he flew away, and maybe he migrated, and maybe he enjoyed some more flowers. And that is how butterflies go from an egg to a butterfly.
Alright guys, that'll pretty much do it for today. Now you're probably wondering why I'm laying down on the ground. That's because I actually have some milkweed that I've been growing in my own backyard to try to make a little butterfly garden. And they came back this year. So if you can see this one right here, this is actually a swamp milkweed plant that's coming up pretty well. And then this plant right here, if you can see the leaves, they're a lot wider and they're more ovally, they're not as pointed as the swamp milkweed. So this one is actually our common milkweed. Now I don't think I have any butterfly milkweed in my backyard, but I've got plenty growing back here, so hopefully I'll be able to see a lot more monarch caterpillars and butterflies around. Now, pretty much the same old song and dance as usual weeks. Thursdays you're going to have your hashtag MOA Live Talks with Heather at 1 o'clock on Facebook Live, so tune into that. And then Fridays at 10 a.m. sharp, you can find Katie, and she's going to be doing her Mad Libs. And always fun. I actually got a preview of these, so definitely check them out. Otherwise, as always, have a fantastic Wednesday, and stay safe.